Greetings everyone. Uh, my name is Jigyasu. I'm a student of University of Petroleum and Energy Studies. Uh, Today I will explain you what is object-oriented analysis and design and what is it is about. So let us begin. So first of all, what is object-oriented analysis and design? So object-oriented analysis and design is a technical approach for analyzing and designing an application system or business by applying object oriented programming as well as using visual modeling throughout the software development process to guide stakeholders communication and a product quality. Okay, so let me tell you about what is experiment 1 is about. Let me explain you first about what is a use case diagram. So a use case diagram is a graphical depiction of a user's possible interaction within a system. Actually, a use case diagram shows various use cases and different types of user system and has often been accompanied by the other types of diagrams as well. So what is happening in this diagram is first of all, this rectangle tells us what is depicts us the scope of the use case diagram. So in a use case diagram there are actors. There are two types of actors, which are primary actors and secondary actors. Actually, what the primary actors does that it initializes uh, actually primary actors initializes the use case of the system, whereas the secondary actors will only act once the customer does something. So the next element is a use case diagram. So this the mark this is shown is known as the use case diagram. Actually, an actor is something that helps us to find what the is about and the system that happens within a system within an app. The next element is an actor. An actor is someone or something that uses our system to achieve a goal. There are two types of actors basically, primary and secondary. Primary actor initializes the use case of a system, whereas the secondary actors will only act once the customer does something. The next element is the use case diagram that is depicted over a oval shape, represent an action that access some sort of tags within the system. They are going to place within the rectangle because they are actions that occur within the app. The next element is an association, the line that just signifies a relationship between the actors and a use case, between an excellent relationship. Adds up a behavior sequence to the base use case, whereas include relationship based model, the use case when a use case includes the behavior of sequence of another use case. Now come back to the diagram. Here we have a system of university enrollment system, whereas we can see that we have four use case diagrams, which are enrolled in university, perform security check, enroll family member university, and enroll in chamber. Similarly, we have four actors in the system: registrar, student, international student, and applicant. The actor, international student, is a child of student. Since both these have a common attributes, thus form a generalization relationship. So we also see the applicant that the registrar student all are associated to enroll in university and enroll in seminar shares. Include relationship within a knowledge industry, as each student has to enroll in college and once enrolls in the university. Performance security check is restricted to only international students. Shares in and include relationship within an university. Lastly, we have use case diagram in a family, enroll in a family member in university, which is an inheritance use case for enroll in university, since they both share similar threats. With this that they used his diagram to summed up. Now I'm going to explain the experiment 2, and given the problems here states that school has a principal, many students and many teachers. Each of these person has a name, but many borrow written books. Teachers and the principal are both paid a salary. The principal evaluates the teacher. A school board supervises multiple schools and can hire and fire the principal for a school. A school has many playgrounds and rooms and a playground. and has many swings. Each row has many chairs and doors. Rooms include restrooms, classrooms, and a cafeteria. Each classroom has a computer and a desk. Each text has many rulers. Before moving ahead, let me tell you about classes. A class have three parts: upper section. The upper section comprises of the name, the class, and within the section, middle section consists of the attribute which describes the quality of the class. Lower section contains the methods and operations. The plus, minus, and hashtag signs used to denote the public, private, and protected visibilities perspective. The classes are connected to each other by an association, generalization, multiplicity, aggregation, or a composition. Multiplicity defines a specific range of allowable instance of attribute. Now coming back to the diagram, let me tell you about there are several classes in this diagram. The class school is connected to classes, teachers, students, principal, school, board, playground, and rooms, which are further connected to classes, chairs, doors, restrooms, cafeteria, etc. The class school is associated to school board, which is according to the problem has attributes hire principal and fire principal, since it is working in including hiring or firing principals. The multiplicity of the association between the school board. School is one of the asterisk denoting one to many relationships, since the school is a board of can look over the number of schools. Moving on to the next class, students. Teachers, principals, we can see that they all contain common attributes: name, date. The classes, teachers, and principal contains an additional attribute, salary, common to them as both stated in the given diagram. We also have a method evaluate present in the class principal as according to a question. Principal evaluates the performance of the teacher. Let's talk about multiplicity. Now we can see the class school is associated to the class, students, and the teachers. The multiplicity of one of the two asterisk, which again means one to many relationship. Since a school can have various teachers and students, but the multiplicity of the relationship between the principal and the school is 1 to 1, since a school can only have one principal. These classes are further associated to the class books with the attribute bottle and return as method mentioned in the problem. The multiplicity of the association between asterisk is to winning. Now moving down to the classes playground. We can see that the swings are sufficient to play down with a multiplicity of 1 to many, since a playground can have many swings, and similarly we can see that the school is associated with a playground with a multiplicity of 1 to medicine. Since one school can have many playgrounds and the classroom act as an patient class to several child classes, namely cafeteria, room, and classroom, since they all fall under the same category and have similar features. Home is also suited to each other classes, namely chairs and those which have a multiplicity of 1 to many, as many classrooms can have several doors features. And lastly we can look at the classroom, which is associated to three classes: computer, rurals, desks. Whether multiplicity of 1 to many part 2 of experiment deals with the problem. A drive has a multiple disks. A hard drive contains magnetics. Floppy drive contains deals with the problem of a drive has a disks and multiple, and a floppy drive contains one text, and a text is divided into tracks, which are in turn subdivided into sectors. A file system may use multiple sticks, and disks may be partitioned across file system. Similarly, disk may contain many files, and a file may be partitioned across magnetic, and a file system consists of many files. Each file has an owner, permissions for dating and writing date, last modified, size, and the checksum. Operation that apply to files include create, copy, delete, rename, compress, and compare file. Maybe files, maybe data files or directly files. Any hierarchy organizes groups of reasonably related files. Directories may be requestedly nested to an end. Tab each file within a directory can be uniquely identified by its file name, and a file may be correspond to many directory file name pair such as throw, unique, links, etc. Right. uh, or binary file. And now moving on to the diagram, we can see that the class file has various attributes and a method. Since the program asks each file to have certain methods, we have the attributes name and last name, modified, size, permission, owner, and so this is a diagram, and the method asks the programs and since the program asks each of the files to have certain attributes and methods, we have the attribute name, last name, date, modified, size, permission, owner, and a section. And the methods have to create, copy, delete, and rename, recompress, and compare. The class file extend is property to the data file, or directly thirds act as in parent class to them and form a generation relationship between them. As the problem state that a data file may be a sky file or a binary file, we have a generalization relationship here too, whereas the data file act as a parent class and the child class are sky file and binary file. Now we can see the class drive, we can see that the floppy drive are which are inheriting from their properties from drive, thus forming a generalization relationship. Floppy drive is related to a index within an association relationship and the multiplicity of 1 to 1, since the problem state that we can have many one disks. Hard drive is related to an experience association relationship and the multiplicity of 1 has to many sense of the problem, saying that a hard drive contains many things. As per the problem class, this is related to a file system and a track pattern association relationship and the multiplicity of many to many for the file system and 1 to 1 for the track. And lastly, we find an association between the track and a sector with a multiplicity of 1 to many, and another association between file system and a file with a multiplicity of 1 main dimensionally. We are going to see a class diagram for a house. So actually there are several classes, namely room, building, regular, etc. Now we are starting from the experiment 3, which is a class diagram for a problem known as the building, room, refrigerator. We have to create a class diagram for this. Now let me explain you this. So there are several classroom names such as building, bedroom, drawing room, etc. and the classroom associated to the building, regular, alarm, kitchen, smoke alarm, window, can have a several of the mentioned item class kitchen, bedroom, and drawing room. We have inherited their features from a room, thus form a generalization relationship. Similarly, the class kitchen is associated to the class refrigerator, deal with the multiplicity of 1 to many, since there can be numerous items of the same type present in this diagram. We also see a representative is further associated to freezer, enter cheese with the multiplicity 1 to many and 1 to many, as there is only one freezer per refrigerator present. Lastly, we see that the freezer is further associated to the ice cube with the multiplicity of 1 to many dimensional. We are going to see the state chart diagram for this. Let me show you the state chart diagram. Thank you. So let me start with the experiment 4, and in this experiment 4 we have a state chart diagram. So let me tell you firstly about what a state diagram is about. So the state chart diagram is used to describe the states of different objects in its life cycle. Emphasis is placed in the state changes upon some internal or external events. These states of objects are important to analyze and implement them accurately. Initial state is this. The initial state is that helps us to analyze and implement them accurately. Initial state, we see that we use a black fill circle represent the initial state of a system transition. We use a solid arrow to represent the transition or change of control from one state to another. where we use a round rectangular box, which is the white turn box. State diagram represent the condition or circumstances of an object of a class at an instant of time. For example, we use a rounded solid rectangle bar to represent the fork notation with incoming arrow from the parent state and outgoing arrows toward the newly created states. Joining them, we use a rounded rectangular bar to represent a joint rotation with incoming arrows from joining states and the outgoing area towards the common goal state. In this diagram, the black dot we see is known as the initial state arrow connecting the black dot, and the white dot is known as the transition. The white is written inside the rounded rectangle known as the state. We can see when white makes his move, the chances shape to black, then makes his move. This continues until either of them hits its checkmate or it's a checkmate. Either of them hits a checkmate or a statement, then it is known as the statement. Thank you. So in experiment 5, what we have to do is that we have to make a use case diagram for a minor project, and for a minor project we are creating this use case diagram for a gas billing and management system. In this minor project, our project is for managing the gas billing. In this we have 4 actors. In this we can use standard, namely consumer, distributor, agency and a super. There are several used in this case diagram. Let's begin by explaining the consumer and distributor. Use case diagram. First, when a consumer requests for a new connection, a distributor creates a new connection after verifying the KYC. To request a new connection, shares and include relationship with the KYC, because it is very important to know the identity of a person or the agency before giving them their services. Consumer can book the fill forms from the software, and a distributor takes their booking from the same software. Consumer can also make this payment through the software, and the distributor can receive the payment through the same software. Consumer can register a complaint, give his feedback and request for emergency services in case of emergency situation. A distributor, on the other hand, can resolve the complaint and request for the feedback and respond to emergency situations. Software, also known as, allows the distributor login and logout system. They can update their profile, change their password, as well as now coming to the agency and the super users can now see that super user has the option of managing the emergency situation, managing the deliveries, managing the bills and bookings, etc., managing the payments also. Dividing the workload, not coming to director to the agency, we can see that he can manage his feedback, manage customers, manage distributors, sales, and when the software asks, this is what agency does mean. Thank you, and let me now explain you about what the experiment 6 is about. So experiment 6 is a sequence diagram, a type of diagrams that shows the objects in a system or class with an object interact with each other components of a sequence diagram. Lifelines is named as the element which depicts individual participants in a sequence diagram. Messages, communication between objects with using messages. Synchronous messages are asynchronous messages wait for a reply before the interaction can move ahead. Asynchronous messages and asynchronous messages does not wait for a reply from the receiver in our diagram. Waiter, customer, chef, cashier, all are lifelines. The entire process of a customer entering a restaurant, ordering his food and leaving the restaurant after paying his dues is mentioned in a diagram. Order of its occurrence, and the customer firstly places his order, then the waiter, after receiving the order placed by the customer, transfer it via message to the chef, and then chef replies the waiter that he is preparing, and the waiter replies to the customer, wait for some time once the order is ready. The chef messages that order is ready when the waiter come to pick the order, and the order after being picked up by the waiter is sent to the back to the customer, and the customer says thank you to him. Then lastly, the order bill is prepared by the cashier upon being asked the sum of rupees 210 given to the waiter. The cashier, which is then the cashier gives to the customer, and finally the customer pays the bill of 2000 rupees. Then the cashier says thank you. So these are all the diagrams which consist our object-oriented design file. So I feel privileged to explain you all this. So we'll meet again. Thank you so much.